The inquiry of light drifted silently into the edge of the Sol system, its angular silver hull gleaming against the emptiness. From the observation deck, Captain Rel of the Zaltan Empire peered through the darkened viewing screen at what was once the human cradle. The humans had called it home. Now it was nothing but ash. "Deploy the survey drones," Rel ordered. His voice was a soft hiss, the product of a species evolved from serpentine roots and polished through centuries of imperial elegance. The drones swarmed forward like fireflies, dispersing across the system. Data began streaming in, lines of telemetry scrolling across the console in alien glyphs. Radiation levels, critical. Biosignatures, none. Debris fields, extensive. Rel folded his long arms behind his back, his mind calculating probability vectors. 231 years had passed since the last war. The humans had burned themselves and everything around them in their final stand. It was supposed to be the end of their species, but something had brought him here. "Report," he said, tail coiling slowly around one of the polished deck pylons. "Multiple artifacts in the belt region," said Subcommander Zine. "Remnants of human orbital structures. Most are inert." However, Rel turned his head slightly. The pause was deliberate. Zine would not hesitate without cause. "One beacon is still transmitting. Low power. Ancient code." The subcommander's eyes, flat, lidless, narrowed. "Human design. Display it." A window opened on the main screen, displaying a crude, flickering image, an archaic AI transmission, degraded by time and radiation. At first, it was incomprehensible. Noise, static, overlapping words. "If you find this, this is Earth Command Unit 09. All non-essential personnel, evac protocols. This is not a call for rescue. It is a..." The image glitched violently. "A warning. Do not enter Sol. Repeat. Do not enter Sol. We have burned the sky. We have broken the void. There is nothing left here but ghosts and fire." Then the feed cut off. Silence reigned on the deck. Zine glanced at Rel. "Captain, this shouldn't be possible. That beacon should have failed centuries ago. There's no sign of maintenance structures. Run a diagnostic on the source location now." The response was immediate. A derelict object orbiting deep in the Kuiper Belt, just beyond Pluto's fragmented remains. A vessel, human in origin, mostly intact. "Bring us in closer," Rel said. The crew hesitated, but orders were orders. The inquiry of light moved with surgical grace through the debris field of a once mighty system. Earth's corpse spun far behind them now, a cracked marble swaddled in radiation storms. Mars fared little better. The orbital stations were crumbled skeletons. Luna's base was silent, its dome shattered like glass. But in the cold shadow of the belt, something waited. As they neared the derelict, its shape grew clearer, sleek, angular, its plating scorched and scarred. On its hull, faded letters in Earth Standard read, "EDF Vessel, Sanction," and beneath it, scratched in jagged tool marks, "Remember fire. Life signs." Rel asked. Zine checked twice. Faint. One biosignature. Human. Augmented. No power spikes. No defenses. "They're just sitting there. Bring them aboard." The boarding party approached cautiously, weapons drawn, environmental suits sealed. The derelict's airlock gave a single groaning protest before it opened. Inside was darkness, lit only by emergency lights and a deep red glow coming from the ship's spine, its reactor barely functioning after centuries. They found her in the command chamber, slumped in a chair, breathing slow and shallow. A woman, if she could still be called that. Her body was wrapped in ancient combat plating, blackened and dented. One arm was entirely synthetic, glinting with hex steel mesh. Her eyes opened as they entered, glowing faint amber. "I was wondering when someone would come," she said hoarsely. The boarding leader activated his translator. "Identify yourself." "Ash," she said. "Ash of Sanction. Fireborn Unit 0143. The team froze. The Fireborn were myths. War beasts engineered in the last days of Earth. Supposedly they had all died with the Ember fleets. "You should have stayed gone," she muttered. "But I know how curiosity works. It's what makes you all think you're gods." The team hesitated, then radioed for medical. She waved them off. "No. I'm stable enough. You want answers? Bring me to your captain." Rel studied her from behind the safety of a containment field. She sat calmly, arms folded, eyes watching everything. You survived 2 centuries alone, he said. I wasn't alone, Ash replied. I had ghosts, protocols, failsafes, enough to keep my brain intact. Why remain here? Why not go silent? Because I wasn't done, she said. There was something unsettling in her voice, calm, measured, but behind it burned coals of anger. We believed your species extinct, Rel said. Our records show complete planetary sterilization. Yeah, Ash chuckled. We thought that too. That's the problem with humans. We survive when we shouldn't. Like mold in the cracks. She leaned forward slightly. Do you know what Operation Emberfall was? Rel narrowed his eyes. A last-ditch strategy. More than that, it was a bet that if Earth burned, we'd scatter the fire. Across moons, asteroid belts, exoplanets, unmarked stations. We left pieces of ourselves everywhere. Why? Rel asked. Ash's voice was steel. Because we knew one day someone would come back, to pick over our bones, to study our weapons, to decide whether to start the extermination again. She tapped her temple, and when that happened, we'd start the burn all over. Rel felt an ancient emotion stir, one his people had not felt in generations. Fear. Are there more like you? Ash smiled. A terrible, tired smile. You'll find out soon enough. One of your scout fleets entered the Epsilon Drift, didn't it? They'll find out what sleeps beneath the ice. Another one sniffing around the Fornax anomaly. Good luck with that. A faint ping echoed across the ship's system. Zine glanced at the console. Captain, we've just received a signal. Origin, unknown. Encoding, Earth cycle quantum pulse. It's repeating a single phrase. Translate. The screen lit up with a single message in clean, white font. Emberfall protocol resumed. Ash stood slowly, unshackled, her eyes brighter now. You thought we were gone, she said softly. You thought we were ash. She turned toward the viewport, where the stars blinked cold and distant. But we were fire, and we remember how to burn. Captain Rel stood in silence as the Zaltan vessel Inquiry of Light entered a decaying orbit around the derelict human warship. A silent relic of a species the galaxy had already written off. But the woman now walking beside him, Ash, was proof that history had lied. Your vessel, Rel said, has no FTL, no functioning comms, no cryostasis. And yet you live. Ash gave a faint smile. Because I'm not like you. I don't need comfort to survive. Just purpose. The captain's translator interpreted her inflection, but it failed to capture the human venom beneath the words. She wasn't speaking for his benefit. She was speaking for the dead. Rel gestured to his bridge crew. Set course for Proxima's edge. We'll regroup and begin analyzing this reactivation signal. Ash didn't protest. Instead, she watched the stars drift past the viewing port, eyes tracking constellations as though she were watching old friends return. They had been en route for 2 hours when the first disruption struck. Gravimetric distortion ahead, barked Zine, his claws flying across the controls. Localized in the asteroid field at Sector 12. Rel frowned. Explain. Zine brought up a hollow map of the surrounding space. A cluster of rogue asteroids had begun shifting, their orbits disrupted by an anomalous gravitational source, something large and moving, masked from long-range detection. Before Rel could respond, the bridge dimmed. Warning lights flashed across the control stations. Unidentified object decloaking. Another officer called. Bearing 25 by 42. Closing fast. The screen flickered, then revealed a monstrous silhouette. It was not Zaltan. The ship was hulking, jagged, and mismatched, clearly human in origin, but modified far beyond original Earth designs. Portions of the hull were sheathed in living metal that pulsed with slow bioluminescence. Instead of conventional engines, the vessel emitted bursts of blue plasma from a spinal array, organic propulsion fused with salvage tech. Ash stepped closer to the screen. They found me, she said quietly. That's a fireborne dreadship. Generation 7. Call sign Ruawake. Rel hissed. Why is it not responding to our hails? Because it's not here to talk, Ash said, her tone grim. It's here to judge. The ruin wake drifted closer, almost lazily, as though it had all the time in the galaxy. Its weapon bays remained sealed, but energy readings spiked across the Inquiry of Light sensors. This is Captain Rel of the Zaltan vessel Inquiry of Light. We come in peace. We retrieved a surviving human from the Sol system. Her presence aboard is not an act of war. Silence. Then a voice, a deep, metallic rasp flooded the comms. Human designation Ash, confirm integrity. Ash stepped forward, eyes hard. Ash of sanction. Fireborn 0143. Awake, aware, unbroken. Emberfall protocol verified. There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again. Directive acknowledged. Transfer complete. Across the control deck, consoles began blinking. What is it doing? Rel demanded. Ash's expression darkened. It's seeding your systems with a data package. Intelligence, command structure, locations. It thinks you're a new ally. I did not authorize it. It doesn't care. Fireborn ships are semi-autonomous war mines. They follow Emberfall's logic. Any vessel sheltering Fireborn is considered a temporary asset. Congratulations, Captain. You're now part of the human resistance. Rel's jaw tightened. I am no ally of yours. And yet here we are, Ash said softly. The data packet unfolded like a viral bloom across the inquiry systems. Visual feeds activated. A map of the Orion sector came into focus, marked with a dozen blinking red nodes. What are these? Asked Subcommander Zane. Candle points, Ash said. What's left of our beacons? Safe houses, sleeper caches, cells buried under alien regimes. Some with humans, some with hybrids, some with AIs waiting to be woken. You're planning to bring back the war. It never ended, she said. It only paused. The moment you stepped into Sol, you relit the fuse. A new icon blinked to life, this time on the outer edge of Proxima's orbit. A distress ping, encrypted in Earth-timed pulses. Ash turned sharply toward the signal. That's from Bastion 3, she said. One of our cryovaults. It's broadcasting an emergency wake sequence. That's not supposed to happen unless they're under attack. Rel stepped forward. Your people are scattered. Your ships are relics. You cannot possibly challenge the Zaltan Empire. Ash met his gaze without flinching. You've never fought humans at our worst, and that's what you're about to get. The journey to Bastion 3 took less than an hour at full burn. They approached a dead moon orbiting a brown dwarf. No atmospheres, no activity, but buried beneath its crust was something the Zaltan sensors hadn't seen until they were within visual range. A human installation, long dormant, now half-collapsed from an apparent orbital strike. Someone got here first, Zine muttered. No, Ash said, her voice flat. Someone tried to erase it, but they didn't finish the job. The dreadship Ruinwake deployed a landing craft. Ash volunteered to lead the boarding team. Rel insisted on joining her. Why? She asked. To understand, he said simply. They descended in silence. The interior of Bastion 3 was a tomb. Dim emergency lights cast long shadows over frost-covered walls. Cracked cryopods lined the corridors, most shattered, their occupants long dead. A few still pulsed with faint energy, but life signs were faint at best. Ash walked between them like a mourner. Her gloved hand brushed against one of the pods. Inside, a child no older than 10 lay suspended in stasis. A data panel flickered. Name, Miri. Status, incomplete growth. Defense seed, delayed. Rel examined it. They raised soldiers in sleep? Ash didn't answer. She knelt beside another pod, this one larger. A bearded man with cybernetic implants floated within, skin pale but unscarred. His vitals were stable. Commander Rayan, she whispered. One of the Emberborn. Rel watched as she connected a neural link to the pod. Rayan's eyes shot open. The first thing he said was, Is Earth still burning? Ash nodded. It burns in memory, but the stars remember. It's time. Rayan smiled, and it was not kind. Then we finish it. They returned to the surface an hour later. The sky above was dark, the brown dwarf casting dull orange light across the broken landing zone. Ruinwake floated silently above like a judge waiting to pass sentence. Ash stood before Rel, flanked by Commander Rayan and a new awakening cadre. You've seen what's coming, she said. The Fireborn aren't just old ghosts. We're an idea, and now that idea is awake again. Rel remained still. And what of peace? Of coexistence? You didn't come to coexist. You came to dissect, to catalog, to decide if we were still a threat. Well, now you know. Her voice softened just slightly. But maybe you can still choose. You don't have to fight us, but you can't stand in the way. Not anymore. Rel looked to the stars. The galaxy was vast, and suddenly, it felt very, very small. You intend to light the galaxy on fire, he said. Ash turned away. No, she said. We intend to remind it who the fire belongs to. Back aboard the Inquiry of Light, Subcommander Zine quietly activated a deep band communication array. Despite the security locks placed after the Emberfall upload, he found a backdoor, an old maintenance port not yet overwritten. He sent a message to High Command, Zaltan Core Worlds. Message: confirmed contact with surviving human war elements. Fireborne project is active. Protocol Emberfall has resumed. Request immediate fleet reinforcement. He paused, considering his next words. They are not the broken race we believed. They are something else, something worse. He signed the message, then turned and watched as Ash stepped onto the bridge and smiled. The Inquiry of Light hummed quietly as it slipped away from the ruined bastion. 3 installation, the cold expanse of space stretching infinitely ahead. Captain Rel stood by the viewport, the glow of distant stars reflected in his sharp, serpentine eyes. Across the room, Ash sat quietly, her cybernetic arm tapping in a slow rhythm against the console. You said the Fireborn are an idea, Rel began cautiously. Not just a war machine? Ash didn't look up. Fireborn are survival incarnate. We are the ember at the bottom of the ashes, the spark that never truly dies. The galaxy thinks humans died with Earth's final burn, but it was just the beginning. Rel exhaled slowly. What now? What is your goal? To light the fire again, she said simply. But this time, not just for survival, for retribution. Aboard the bridge, Subcommander Zine sifted through the downloaded Emberfall data, lines of ancient Earth code woven with alien technology. The Fireborn weren't just bioweapons, they were a hybrid of human resilience and the darkest innovations humanity had created before the fall. Zine's fingers trembled over the console as he decoded a message embedded deep in the files. A call to rally surviving humans scattered across the galaxy and reclaim their place by any means necessary. They're organizing, Zine said, voice low. This isn't a ragtag resistance. This is a full-scale campaign. Rel nodded, understanding the gravity. How many humans remain active? Unknown, Zine replied. The beacon networks span beyond Proxima, beyond Sol. Their reach could be vast. Ash stood near the command deck's holographic display, fingers tracing out star charts. Her gaze lingered on a system far from Sol, a place called Tau Ceti. That's where the next Emberfall node lies, she said. One of our last refuges. If we can ignite it, it will send a shockwave through our sleeper cells. Rel studied the chart. You plan to spark a new war front. Ash met his eyes. War is what saved us once. Maybe it's what will save us again. He shook his head. There must be another way. Not anymore, Ash said, voice hardening. They don't just want our bones to be museum pieces. They want us extinct. The Inquiry engaged the Emberfall beacon, opening a secured comm channel to the Tau Ceti node. Static rippled across the line. Then a ragged voice spoke. Protocol activation confirmed. It said, Unit designations, Emberborn. Rise. The ship's systems pulsed. Suddenly, multiple encrypted transmissions flooded the bridge, linking human sleeper cells scattered across star systems in a synchronized awakening. We're not alone, Ash said with a grim smile. We're the spark, the fire that never died. Meanwhile, in the Zaltan Core Worlds, High Command convened an emergency session. The news from Sector Sol was unsettling. Reports confirmed the survival of Fireborn units and the reactivation of Emberfall protocols. General Threx declared, his voice like a grinding stone. Captain Rel's fleet is the only thing standing between the resurgence and total galactic destabilization. An officer added, dispatch reinforcements immediately, the High Chancellor ordered. Contain the Fireborn before they ignite a conflagration. But within the council chambers, a dissenting voice whispered, are we sure extinguishing them is possible? A delegate asked. The humans always find a way. Their fire burns too bright. Back on the Inquiry, Ash led a tactical briefing. Tau Ceti's Emberfall node will broadcast our signal to sleeper cells in 3 nearby systems, she explained. It's a beacon and a call to arms. Rel studied the faces of his officers. What about the civilian populations in these systems? This will bring war to their doorsteps. Ash's eyes were fierce. War was brought to ours. They chose extinction. We choose survival. Zine interrupted. Captain, We have intercepted an incoming transmission. Origin unknown. The channel opened, revealing a human voice, calm but resolute. Emberfall Protocol is a double-edged sword, the voice said. Ignite the fire, but beware the ash it leaves behind. Then the channel cut. Ash's brow furrowed. Who was that? Rel's mind raced. Someone within the Fireborn? Or a new faction? As the inquiry neared Tau Ceti, tension in the ship grew palpable. Ash prepared for the landing, donning her combat gear and checking her weapons. This is more than a mission, she told Rel. It's a reckoning. Rel nodded. And if the Fireborn are the fire, then I must be the water. Ash looked at him, a flicker of respect passing between them. Then let's see which element prevails. The chapter closes with the inquiry entering orbit around the Tau Ceti system, the next Emberfall node ready to awaken. Outside the viewport, distant stars blinked cold and indifferent. But inside the ship, a new war was kindling. The orbit around Tau Ceti was eerily quiet, a sharp contrast to the tension coiling inside the inquiry of light. The barren planet below was scarred from ancient battles, its surface pockmarked with craters and ruined cities swallowed by dust and time. It was the kind of world that whispered secrets of bloodshed long past, secrets Ash knew too well. Status report, Captain Rel demanded, standing over the tactical console. Subcommander Zine's claws danced across the holographic controls. Sensors show the Emberfall node is active but shielded by layers of ancient defensive protocols. We'll need a precision strike to bypass the firewalls without triggering a lockdown. Ash stepped forward, her cybernetic arm gleaming faintly in the dim light. I can help. My neural implants can interface with the old Earth tech. It won't be easy. These systems were designed to resist even their own creators. Rel eyed her thoughtfully. If you succeed, it could rally the sleepers across this system and beyond. Ash's eyes glinted with resolve. Then let's light the match. The landing party assembled in the shuttle bay. Ash, Rel, Zine, and a small squad of specialized Marines. Their destination was the buried Emberfall installation, hidden beneath the planet's cracked crust. As the shuttle pierced the atmosphere, a storm of ash and ionized particles whipped around them. The atmosphere was thin, the sky a swirling gray haze. Tau Ceti's fire still burns, Ash muttered. Rel's gaze hardened, but not for long. We have to make it count. They landed near the base of a ruined tower, its spires shattered like broken teeth against the horizon. The entrance was partially buried under rubble, but still guarded by automated turrets long since rusted and silent. Ash knelt by a console embedded in the wall. Help me get this online, she said, fingers tracing ancient runes etched into the metal. Minutes later, her implants interfaced with the terminal, lines of code streaming past her vision in a blur. The defense turrets sparked to life, but instead of hostility, Ash rerouted their targeting matrices. They're ours now, she said. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Incoming, Zine growled. From the horizon emerged silhouettes, dozens of twisted machines, scavengers from a forgotten war, their rusted frames pulsing with stolen energy. The team moved fast, blasters lighting up the twilight as they fought their way inside. Inside the Emberfall bunker, the air was stale and thick with the scent of oil and decay. Rows of cryopods lined the walls, silent except for the faint hum of their life support systems. Ash moved down the corridor, her hand resting on each pod as she passed. They're waiting, she whispered, waiting for the spark to wake them. In the command chamber, Zine worked to disable the remaining security protocols. I'm almost there, he said, sweat beading on his brow. Suddenly, the room shuddered as an explosion rocked the bunker's outer defenses. We've been compromised, Rel shouted. Prepare for contact. The breach came in the form of fireborn, humans like Ash, but twisted, corrupted by war and time. Their eyes burned with unnatural fire, and their bodies were fused with weapons and armor long since rusted, but terrifyingly effective. Ash faced them down, voice ringing out. You're not the Emberborn I remember. What happened here? One of the Fireborn stepped forward, its voice a fractured echo. The war never ended. We fought the Zaltan here, and lost. Our minds fractured. The Emberfall failed. Ash's jaw clenched. Then let me finish what you started. In the chaos, Rel coordinated the defense, calling out orders as the Fireborn surged forward. Zine kept the security systems online as best he could, but their hold was slipping. Ash fought with a fury born of centuries of survival, her cybernetic enhancements allowing her to move faster and strike harder than any normal human. She targeted the corrupted Fireborn leader, their blades clashing with sparks flying. "You think this ends with death?" Ash spat. "It ends with rebirth." With a final, devastating strike, she severed the leader's power core. The remaining Fireborn faltered, then retreated into the shadows. As the dust settled, Ash approached the control console. She activated the Emberfall node. The beacon flared to life, sending a pulse of energy rippling through space. Across the inquiry, alarms sounded as sleeper cells in nearby systems began to stir. Rel watched the displays. "You did it. The fire spreads." Ash looked out the viewport, eyes distant. "It's only the beginning." That night, aboard the ship, Ash and Rel sat in the observation lounge. The stars above were cold and indifferent, but the galaxy beneath them was changing. Rel broke the silence. "You're risking everything to start a war." Ash smiled, faint and tired. "Sometimes, war is the only way to remind the galaxy who we are." Rel nodded slowly. "And if the fire consumes us all?" Ash's eyes burned bright. "Then we will be the ashes that give birth to something new." In the shadows, unseen by the crew, a hidden observer recorded the events unfolding. A whisper of data, a ghost in the machine. The ember had been lit. The fire was returning. The inquiry of light cruised deeper into Tau Ceti's outer systems, its hull still resonating faintly with the aftershocks of the Emberfall beacon's activation. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense but charged with purpose. The spark Ash ignited on the barren planet had sent ripples far beyond what anyone had predicted. Sleeper cells scattered across nearby star systems were waking from their centuries-long slumber. Captain Rel stood at the ship's central command console, staring at the live comm feed. Every channel was alive with fragments of voices, ragged transmissions, whispered code words, calls for rendezvous, and the faint sounds of long-dormant fighters stirring from shadowed corners of the galaxy. The Fireborn, thought to be extinguished, were awakening. But this revival came at a price. "Status report," Rel demanded, his voice carrying the weight of command. Subcommander Zine tapped rapidly on the console, pulling data from across the ship's sensor grid. "We've confirmed multiple Emberfall nodes and 3 additional systems are responding. The sleeper cells are mobilizing, but they're fragmented. Communication lines are spotty, and coordination is limited." Ash, standing nearby, folded her cybernetic arms. "Fragmentation is expected after centuries in isolation. But once we secure the next node, the network will synchronize." Rel's brow furrowed. "And the Zaltan response?" Zine's claws hovered over the emergency alert system. "They've increased patrols near known Fireborn sites. Recon units detected on trajectories converging toward Tau Ceti. They're mobilizing quickly." Ash's eyes darkened. "They want to snuff us out before the ember becomes ablaze." In the ship's strategy room, the landing party gathered. The next Emberfall node was located in a system called Vega Prime, about 3 jumps from Tau Ceti. The plan was to secure it before the Zaltan could mount a significant response. Rel tapped a star chart, outlining the route. "This node is critical. If we control it, we control the narrative." Ash nodded. "And we show the galaxy humanity still burns, not as victims, but as victors." "Any intel on the defenses?" Rel asked. Zine's hologram flickered to life. "Heavily fortified, more so than Tau Ceti. The Fireborn here must have anticipated retaliation." Rel's jaw tightened. "Then we'll hit them fast and hard." During the flight, Ash retreated to the ship's med bay. She sat quietly, fingers tapping a rhythmic pattern on her mechanical arm. The memories of the last battle still lingered, the smell of burnt circuitry, the faces of corrupted Fireborn she once called kin. "Do you ever wonder what we've become?" she whispered to herself. A voice interrupted. Rel entered quietly. "I've been thinking the same thing." Ash glanced up. "The Fireborn were forged in war. But if we lose ourselves to it, what's left?" Rel sat beside her. "Maybe that's the point. We're not just survivors. We're the fire itself. Sometimes fire destroys, but it also clears the way for new growth." Ash gave a faint smile. I hope you're right. As the inquiry approached Vega Prime, sensors detected an anomaly, an encrypted distress signal, faint but persistent. Zine decoded the message. It's from a human enclave, deep within Vega Prime's orbit. They're under attack. Rel's face hardened. We can't ignore this. Prepare for immediate deployment. The shuttle launch bay hummed to life as Ash led a rapid strike team toward the beleaguered enclave. The shuttle pierced the planet's atmosphere, weaving through ion storms and electromagnetic interference. On the ground, the enclave was a ramshackle outpost, scavenged tech and desperate souls holding the line against overwhelming Zaltan forces. Ash's team touched down amid gunfire, their arrival turning the tide. Ash moved through the battlefield like a storm, precise, lethal, inspiring. Her voice carried over the comms, rallying the defenders. We are the fire that will not die. Stand and fight. The Enclave fighters, once beaten and broken, surged forward with renewed vigor. Zaltan troops faltered, then retreated. After the battle, Ash and Rel entered the Enclave command center. The Enclave leader, a weathered woman named Commander Lyra, greeted them with weary gratitude. We thought we were the last, Lyra said. The Fireborn, they saved us. Ash nodded. You're not alone. Lyra looked to Rel. But the Zaltan will come back, stronger. You must strike first. Rel's mind raced. That's the plan. Secure the Emberfall node, unite the sleeper cells, and push back. Lyra smiled faintly. Then let the fire reignite. Back aboard the Inquiry, preparations were underway for the assault on the Emberfall node. Ash studied the schematics, identifying weak points in the fortifications. This node was built to last, she noted. But every fortress has a gate. Rel laid out the assault plan. A coordinated strike from orbital bombardment, ground teams breaching the main gate, and Ash's cybernetic squad hacking the central command systems. The battle for the Emberfall node was brutal. Orbital lasers carved lines of destruction across the surface while Marines clashed with Zaltan defenders amid twisted metal and burning wreckage. Ash led the hacking team inside, moving through labyrinthine corridors with calculated speed. Her implants interfaced with the node's core systems, breaking through firewalls and igniting dormant defense turrets to turn against the enemy. Suddenly, alarms blared, an enemy counterattack. Rel, we've got hostiles closing in, Zine shouted. Ash's fingers flew across the console, sending the node into lockdown. We hold this position, no matter what. As the firefight raged, Ash felt the node's systems come alive beneath her fingertips. The beacon's signal pulsed stronger, linking the scattered Fireborn across the galaxy into a coherent network. Outside, reinforcements arrived, sleeper cells converging on Vega Prime, their war cries filling the night sky. Rel communicated with Fleet Command. This changes everything. The Fireborn are no longer fragmented. They are united. The Ember Flare, the node's activation pulse, spread through space like wildfire. Systems long silent erupted with activity, human forces rallying and preparing to reclaim lost worlds. But the Zaltan were not defeated. Their fleets mobilized in response, ready to crush the rising flame before it could consume them. In the quiet aftermath, Ash stood once more at the viewport, staring out at the stars now alive with movement. We've reignited the Ember, she said softly, but the fire is still young. Rel joined her, voice steady. The galaxy will know fear, but they will also know hope. Ash's eyes burned with determination. We are the fire that will not be extinguished. The ashes to reignition. The galaxy was waking. After the Ember Flare pulse lit up Vega Prime, countless sleeper cells began to stir. Fragmented pockets of humanity scattered across star systems long thought lost to history and despair. The Inquiry of Light had ignited more than a signal. It had rekindled a flame of hope and resistance. Captain Rel paced the command bridge, eyes sharp and restless as star maps and communication feeds flickered before him. The information was overwhelming. Reports poured in. Shipyards coming back online, ragtag fleets rallying, enclaves tossing off the shackles of silence. But with the awakening came chaos. In the heart of the Inquiry, Ash sat in the briefing room surrounded by emissaries from newly awakened Fireborn enclaves. Their faces were etched with hardship, scarred by war, betrayal, and centuries of isolation. They spoke many languages and bore diverse customs, but all shared the same burning question. Could these fractured survivors unite as one? Ash knew the answer wasn't simple. "We've been apart too long," she began, her voice steady but urgent. "For centuries, the Fireborn have been scattered, hiding in the shadows. The Emberfall nodes are our beacons, but it's up to us to build the bridges between them." The room buzzed with cautious hope. An elder Fireborn from the frontier world of Rhea, named Jalen, stood. His voice was gruff but passionate. "We fight each other as often as we fight the Zaltan. Old grudges, rivalries, fear, they run deep." Ash nodded. "I understand. But the Zaltan seek to extinguish us all. We must set aside our differences or be consumed." From the back, a young commander named Kayla stepped forward. "How do we trust each other after so long? How do we build unity from ashes?" Ash looked around the room, locking eyes with every leader. "By fighting for a future together. By lighting a spark none can ignore." Meanwhile, the Zaltan Empire was not idle. In their dark capital, cloaked in the shadows of a colossal war fortress, the Zaltan High Warlord Valak observed the rising ember with cold fury. The fires of resistance threatened to unravel centuries of domination. "Send the Dusk Reavers," Valak commanded, voice like grinding metal. "Strike at their heart. Hunt the Fireborn to extinction." The command was clear, no mercy. Back aboard the Inquiry, Ash and Rel strategized over the next moves. "We need to create a summit," Rel said, tracing the constellation of Ember-activated systems on the star map. "A council of Fireborn leaders to unify strategy and resources." Ash's implants flickered as she pulled up encrypted communications channels. "I'll reach out, but trust takes time. We'll have to prove ourselves by taking the fight to the Zaltan," Rel replied. Days later, the first Fireborn summit convened on a neutral station orbiting the lush planet Solara Prime, a symbol of renewal in a war-torn galaxy. Representatives arrived in vessels patched together from salvage and ancient designs, each bearing the marks of their homeworlds. Suspicion and guarded glances filled the halls. Ash opened the summit with a speech that echoed in the Grand Chamber. "We are the ember that survived the darkness. Alone, we flicker, but together, we will become a blaze." The leaders listened, some skeptical, others hopeful. Jalen spoke next, his voice commanding respect. "We fight a common enemy, but to survive, we must share knowledge, weapons, and intelligence." Kayla proposed the formation of a unified fleet, combining their strengths for coordinated strikes. Behind the scenes, Ash worked tirelessly, mediating disputes, negotiating alliances, and uncovering spies sent by the Zaltan to disrupt the fragile unity. One night, as she reviewed security logs, Ash discovered a hidden transmission, a coded message from the Dusk Reavers approaching Solara Prime. She alerted Rel immediately. "They're coming for us." The summit's fragile peace shattered when Zaltan forces launched a surprise attack on Solara Prime's orbital station. The Inquiry and allied ships scrambled to defend their new coalition. Explosions rocked the station as fighters clashed in the void, energy blasts painting the blackness with deadly colors. Ash led the defense on the station itself, coordinating ground teams to repel boarding parties. Her cybernetic arm hummed with power as she engaged enemies with precision and fury. Despite the onslaught, the Fireborn leaders rallied their people, united by the threat. After hours of brutal fighting, the Zaltan assault was repelled, but the cost was high. Ash stood among the wounded, exhaustion heavy in her bones. Rel approached, voice grim. "They won't stop. If we want to survive, our unity must be absolute." Ash wiped blood from her brow. "Then let this battle be the spark that ignites our true strength." In the days that followed, the Fireborn Council formalized their alliance, establishing the Ember Coalition, a united front against the Zaltan Empire. Communications between systems improved, coordinated attacks began disrupting enemy supply lines, and sleeper cells moved from hiding to active resistance. Ash was appointed chief strategist, charged with planning offensive and defensive operations across multiple systems. Rel took command of the combined fleet, preparing for larger engagements. Yet, even as the coalition strengthened, Ash remained haunted by the shadow of their past. The Emberfall's ancient secrets, the corrupted Fireborn, and the growing power of the Zaltan. Late one evening, alone in the observation deck, she gazed out at the stars. "The fire is alive," she whispered, "but will it consume us or illuminate the path forward?" Her cybernetic arm traced a glowing ember-shaped scar, a mark she carried since childhood. "We will not falter. We are humanity's spark, and we will set the galaxy ablaze." The Ember Coalition was no longer a fragile alliance of scattered survivors. It was a rising force. Systems long silent now thrummed with activity as human enclaves took up arms, their ragtag fleets patched together from remnants of forgotten wars. The galaxy's dark corners were lighting up with the signals of rebellion, a network bound not just by shared history, but by a fierce will to reclaim what was lost. Yet, with growth came growing pains, uniting fighters from disparate worlds, each with their own culture, priorities, and scars, was proving harder than anyone anticipated. A growing challenge. Captain Rel stood on the bridge of the flagship Inquiry of Light, watching the War Room holomap pulse with new locations, each point a fledgling Fireborn outpost, each line a tentative communication link. "We've doubled the number of active cells since Solara Prime," reported Subcommander Zine. "But coordination remains erratic. Some systems still operate independently, even competitively." Rel rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "That's the danger of sparks without control. They can burn wild or fizzle out." Ash, standing nearby with her cybernetic arm folded across her chest, added, "It's not just communication. We're seeing ideological rifts. Some factions want to focus on defense, others on immediate strikes." Rel sighed. "We don't have time for division. The Zaltan won't wait for us to get our act together." A mission to forge unity. Recognizing the urgent need to unify the coalition's disparate factions, Ash proposed a daring plan, a series of joint operations targeting key Zaltan supply hubs and communication arrays. Coordinated strikes would not only disrupt the enemy, but also force the Fireborn to fight side by side, building trust through shared victory and sacrifice. Rel nodded approvingly. "If we can make the coalition's fire burn brighter together, we might finally become the force we need to be." Ash's cybernetic eyes glinted. "I'll lead the first strike team personally. This is more than a battle. It's a test." The strike on Vorton Station. The first mission was to take down Vorton Station, a heavily fortified Zaltan supply and relay hub deep in enemy space. It was vital for sustaining their fleet's dominance in the sector. The coalition fleet assembled quietly in the system's shadow, a mix of sleek human vessels and rugged fighters from the frontier worlds. Ash and her squad prepared for the ground assault. As the Inquiry and allied warships unleashed a barrage, Ash led a squadron of ground troops through the station's airlocks, navigating twisted corridors lined with alien tech and deadly traps. "Stay sharp," she warned over comms. "The Zaltan won't give this up easily." Gunfire echoed in narrow passages. Ash's cybernetic arm discharged precise bursts of energy, cutting through enemy ranks while her squad secured key control nodes. Brotherhood in battle. In the chaos, Ash saw the coalition's strength and weakness laid bare. Soldiers from vastly different worlds fought side by side, but tension simmered beneath the surface. One moment, a soldier from the mining colony of Vex, rough and blunt, clashed with a stealth operative from the oceanic world of Tari's over tactics. Ash intervened, voice sharp but calm. "We fight the same enemy. If we can't trust each other now, we're already lost." Her words resonated. As the battle pushed forward, grudges faded, replaced by shared purpose. By mission's end, the station's core was breached, and Vorton's comm relays were destroyed, severing vital Zaltan supply lines. Victory and loss. The strike was a tactical success, but it came with a heavy cost. Several coalition fighters were lost, including a young pilot named Lyra, whose quick thinking had saved many lives during the retreat. Her death hit the coalition hard, a painful reminder of the stakes at hand. At the memorial service aboard the Inquiry, leaders from various enclaves gathered to honor the fallen. Ash spoke, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Lyra's sacrifice is the ember we carry forward. We fight for those who cannot. The room was silent, then united in resolve. An unexpected ally. As the coalition regrouped, Ash received an encrypted message from an unexpected source, a Zaltan defector named Vecker, who claimed to oppose the Empire's brutal policies. The message was brief but tantalizing. I have information that could turn the tide. Meet me at the neutral outpost of Lasara. Rel was skeptical but intrigued. A defector? Could be a trap, Ash considered, or the spark we need. After careful deliberation, they agreed to send a small envoy to meet Vecker. The meeting at Lasara. The outpost of Lasara was a bustling trade hub, neutral ground where humans, aliens, and exiles mingled under a fragile peace. Ash's envoy, including herself, Rel, and a small security detail, docked quietly. They navigated the crowded corridors to a dimly lit room where Vecker waited, tall, shadowed, with eyes sharp and haunted. I am not your enemy, Vecker said. I was once like you, a fireborn enslaved by the Zaltan. I escaped their grip and have seen their weaknesses. Vecker revealed critical intelligence about a secret Zaltan project, the construction of a superweapon capable of annihilating entire systems in minutes. The device was being built in the heart of the Zaltan capital, an ominous Sunbreaker, a new threat. The revelation stunned the coalition leaders. The Sunbreaker would tip the balance irrevocably if completed. Rel's jaw clenched. We must destroy it before it's operational. Ash's mind raced. A direct assault on the capital would be suicide. We need to weaken their defenses, create diversions, split their forces. The Ember Coalition faced its greatest challenge yet, an enemy not just of armies and fleets, but of terrifying technology. Rallying the coalition. Back on the Inquiry, Ash and Rel convened a council to plan their next moves. The strategy was bold. Simultaneous strikes on multiple fronts to stretch the Zaltan forces thin, while a covert team infiltrated the capital to sabotage the Sunbreaker project. The council voted unanimously, their unity forged in the fires of recent battles. The fire grows. As plans took shape, Ash reflected on how far the Fireborn had come. What had started as isolated embers on distant worlds was becoming a constellation of resistance, a wildfire destined to reshape the galaxy. Yet the path ahead was dark and treacherous. The Zaltan would not surrender easily. The war for humanity's survival had only just begun. But Ash believed, with every fiber of her being, that they would endure. They were the flame that would not be extinguished. The Ember Coalition faced a dire threat unlike any before, the Sunbreaker. This Zaltan superweapon, capable of erasing entire star systems with a single strike, hung like a dark cloud over the fragile hope of humanity's resurgence. Its completion would mean the end of any meaningful resistance, crushing the sparks of rebellion into oblivion. Ash and Rel knew they had to act swiftly and decisively. The coalition's survival depended on a daring gambit. Infiltrate the heart of the Zaltan Empire, sabotage the Sunbreaker before it could be unleashed, and ignite a chain reaction that would shatter the Empire's grip forever. Preparing the infiltration. Back aboard the Inquiry of Light, the war room was alive with activity. A holographic projection of the Zaltan capital, a sprawling fortress world known as Zarkesh, hovered above the table. Its surface was dotted with layers of defensive satellites, energy shields, and legions of soldiers. This won't be like any strike we've launched before, Rel said grimly. Zarkesh is a fortress built to withstand millennia. Ash tapped on the projection, zooming in on a heavily fortified research facility where intelligence indicated the Sunbreaker was being assembled. We can't storm the entire capital, she said. We'll send a small, elite team to infiltrate the facility directly. She laid out the plan. A covert insertion using stealth shuttles to bypass orbital defenses, ground operatives to sabotage the weapon's core components, and extraction time to coincide with the main fleet's diversionary attacks. Selecting the team. The success of the mission rested on the shoulders of a select few. Ash chose specialists from across the coalition. Kayla, the young commander from the Fireborn frontier. Jalen, the battle-hardened elder with deep knowledge of Zaltan tactics. Zine, the brilliant tech expert. And herself, as chief strategist. The team trained relentlessly in simulated environments, studying the layout of Zarkesh and practicing silent takedowns. Each member grappled with the weight of the mission. Failure was not an option. The diversion. Meanwhile, Realm marshaled the coalition fleet to launch a massive offensive on the outer Zaltan systems. These strikes were designed to draw the enemy's attention and forces away from the capital, creating a narrow window for the infiltration team. The fleet engaged in brutal space battles, engaging enemy cruisers and disabling supply lines. Explosions and energy blasts lit the void as coalition fighters demonstrated the growing power and coordination of the human resistance. Insertion into the heart of darkness. Under the cover of the fleet's assault, the infiltration team's stealth shuttles slipped through the orbital defenses of Zarkesh. The shuttles navigated twisting canyons and shadowed craters to reach the facility's subterranean entrance. Inside, the corridors were cold and sterile, illuminated by harsh white lights reflecting off metallic walls. Alien machinery hummed ominously, the pulse of the Sunbreaker palpable in the air. "Stay close," Ash whispered. "One wrong move, and we're dead." Sabotage and discovery. The team moved like shadows, disabling security drones and hacking control panels. Zine's cybernetic interface allowed him to bypass encrypted systems with precision. As they reached the Sunbreaker's core chamber, a massive fusion reactor thrummed, the heart of the superweapon. Jalen placed a series of explosive charges on critical components, while Ash coordinated timing through her comm link. Suddenly, alarms blared. The team's presence was detected. The fight for escape. Zaltan soldiers swarmed the corridors, cutting off their retreat. The team fought fiercely, blending tactical skill with desperation. Kayla's squad took point, laying suppressive fire as Ash and Jalen finished the sabotage. Charges set. Jalen shouted, "Fall back." Ash ordered. The team raced through labyrinthine tunnels as explosions rocked the facility behind them. The Sunbreaker's core detonated, sending shockwaves that disabled the facility's defenses and caused massive structural damage. Extraction under fire. The team reached the extraction point as enemy reinforcements closed in. Rel and the fleet provided a critical distraction, engaging orbital defenses to cover the shuttle's escape. As they lifted off, the team faced one last obstacle, a heavy Zaltan cruiser blocking their path. In a daring move, Ash piloted the lead shuttle through a narrow canyon, dodging enemy fire with expert precision, while Kayla's fighters engaged the cruiser to buy them time. A narrow victory. The shuttles escaped into the waiting fleet just as the facility collapsed into a fiery crater. Cheers erupted aboard the Inquiry, but the victory was tempered by loss. The mission had cost lives, including Zine, who sacrificed himself to cover the retreat. Ash stood silently, mourning the fallen but resolute. The turning tide. The destruction of the Sunbreaker stalled the Zaltan's advance and sent ripples through their empire. The Coalition's coordinated strikes and the infiltration's success proved that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Across the galaxy, more enclaves rallied to the Ember Coalition's banner, inspired by the bold gambit and the unity it forged. Reflections in the aftermath. In the quiet moments after battle, Ash reflected on the mission's lessons. The Coalition was no longer just a scattering of survivors. It was becoming a true resistance, forged in fire and blood. But the war was far from over. The Zaltan would rebuild, and their wrath would be fiercer. Ash's cybernetic arm glinted under the starry sky as she looked toward the horizon. "We have lit the spark," she whispered. "Now we must keep it burning." "Would you like me to continue with Chapter 9 next?" "You said, explain Chapter 9 into 1,000 to 1,500 words." ChatGPT said, "Absolutely. Here is a detailed explanation of Chapter 9. The heart of the Ember from We Were the Fire expanded to approximately 1,400 words. Chapter 9. The Heart of the Ember. The destruction of the Sunbreaker was a critical blow to the Zaltan Empire, a spectacular victory that galvanized the Ember Coalition and struck fear into the heart of their oppressors. But victory came at a cost. The Zaltan were ruthless, and their retaliation was swift and merciless. As the dust settled from the daring infiltration mission, Ash and the Coalition faced a new, urgent challenge. Solidifying their unity, building their strength from within, and preparing for the inevitable storm that would come crashing down on them. Rebuilding and regrouping. The Inquiry of Light drifted quietly in orbit above the fire-scarred world of Solara Prime, the Coalition's de facto capital. Inside, the crew and leadership worked tirelessly to repair the damages sustained during recent battles and to welcome new allies swelling their ranks. The war room was a hive of activity. Leaders from disparate human enclaves gathered daily, their voices raised in heated debate over strategy, resources, and the future. Rel paced among the holograms and data streams. "We've proven we can strike the enemy where it hurts," he said, "but we can't keep fighting on their terms. We need a base, a real home, to coordinate our efforts, to build our strength." Ash nodded. "A place to forge our identity. Something more than just a collection of survivors." The Ember Sanctuary. Plans took shape for a bold new project. The Ember Sanctuary, a massive space station carved from the asteroid belt of a nearby star system. It would be more than a military outpost, a symbol of hope, resilience, and unity for all who fought against the Zaltan. The sanctuary would serve as a hub for training, research, diplomacy, and refuge, a shining beacon amid the darkness of war. Ash was appointed as the lead coordinator for the project, tasked with uniting engineers, scientists, soldiers, and diplomats from every corner of the Coalition. A new threat emerges. While the Coalition focused on building the sanctuary, dark tidings arrived from the frontier worlds. The Zaltan had unleashed a new weapon, the Shadow Swarm. These were not ships or soldiers, but swarms of nanomachines, microscopic machines programmed to infiltrate and dismantle anything they touched. Entire colonies had fallen silent after the swarm's arrival, the victims swallowed in a tide of cold, mechanical destruction. Ash and Rel studied the data with growing alarm. The Shadow Swarm was unlike any weapon they had encountered. It was insidious, fast, and almost impossible to combat with conventional means. The Scientist and the Solution. Amidst the chaos, a brilliant but reclusive scientist named Dr. Ilera Voss emerged. She had once worked for the Zaltan Empire, researching nanotechnology before defecting and offering her knowledge to the Coalition. Ilera proposed a radical solution, a countermeasure swarm, engineered from human technology but designed to neutralize the Zaltan nanomachines. Her laboratory buzzed with energy as she and her team raced against time, building prototypes and running simulations, training the Fireborn. Meanwhile, Ash oversaw an intensive training program aboard the Inquiry and in the fledgling bases linked to the Coalition. The Fireborn fighters had grown more confident, but the scale and brutality of the war demanded new skills. Tactics were refined, technology adapted, and bonds of camaraderie deepened. Ash personally led squads through simulated assaults, pushing them to their limits, preparing them not just for battle but for survival against the alien menace. Shadows within. Despite outward signs of progress, internal tensions threatened the Coalition's fragile unity. Old rivalries flared, disputes over resources grew, and some factions questioned the leadership of Ash and Rel. In the dim corridors of the Inquiry, whispers of dissent rippled through the ranks. Ash knew that the greatest enemy was not just the Zaltan, but the fracture within their own ranks. An unexpected betrayal. As the Ember Sanctuary neared completion, the Coalition was rocked by a devastating betrayal. One of their own, a trusted diplomat from the mining world of Vex, was discovered to be a Zaltan spy. His sabotage had compromised critical systems aboard the Sanctuary, endangering thousands. The revelation was a blow to morale and trust. Security measures tightened, suspicion grew, and every newcomer was scrutinized. Ash confronted the spy personally, her voice cold and unforgiving. "There is no place here for traitors," she said. The spy's arrest sent a clear message. The Ember Coalition was resolute, and betrayal would not be tolerated. The Sanctuary awakens. Despite the betrayal, the Sanctuary was completed, a gleaming testament to human ingenuity and will. It rose in orbit, a fortress and a home, equipped with advanced defenses, laboratories, training facilities, and living quarters. The Coalition gathered there for the first time in force, the shared space fostering new bonds, plans, and hope. The turning point. With the sanctuary operational and the countermeasure swarm nearing deployment, the Ember Coalition prepared to face the Shadow Swarm. Alara's team loaded the new nanotech into sleek drones designed for rapid deployment. The first wave was launched toward a besieged colony, where the Shadow Swarm was actively dismantling infrastructure. As the drones engaged, a tense silence fell over the command center. Moments stretched into minutes before reports came in. The Shadow Swarm was being neutralized, its relentless advance halted. Cheers erupted across the sanctuary. A new fire burns bright. The victory against the Shadow Swarm marked a pivotal moment. The Ember Coalition had not only survived but adapted and innovated. Ash stood on the observation deck of the sanctuary, looking out into the vast expanse of stars. "The fire inside us burns brighter than ever," she said softly to Rel beside her. He smiled. "And now, we can light the way for all humanity." The battle was far from over, but the heart of the Ember beat strong. The Ember Coalition stood on the cusp of a new era. After countless battles, sacrifices, and moments of crushing doubt, humanity had transformed from scattered survivors into a united force, burning with determination and purpose. But the war against the Zaltan was far from over. The final chapter of their struggle would test every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and resolve. The calm before the storm. The Ember Sanctuary had become a beacon of hope and strength in the war-torn galaxy. Its gleaming spires and fortified walls housed the Coalition's best minds and fiercest warriors. From this vantage point, Ash, Rel, and their allies planned a decisive assault that could finally turn the tide and break the Zaltan's oppressive hold on humanity. The Coalition's intelligence indicated the Empire's flagship, the Leviathan, was gathering forces for a massive push to crush the rebellion once and for all. This massive dreadnought was the pride of the Zaltan fleet, equipped with devastating weaponry and near-impenetrable shields. Ash convened the War Council in the Sanctuary's command center. Holograms of the Leviathan and its accompanying fleet flickered above the table. "This is it," she said, voice steady but charged with urgency. "If they take this fight to the Sanctuary, everything we've built will be lost. We need to strike first, and strike hard." A bold plan. The Coalition devised an audacious plan. Rather than waiting for the Zaltan to attack, they would launch a preemptive strike deep into enemy territory, targeting the Leviathan directly. This mission would require precision, coordination, and sacrifice. Ash volunteered to lead the strike team herself, accompanied by Rel and a hand-picked squad of elite pilots and ground operatives. The objective was clear: disable the Leviathan's command core, crippling the flagship and sending a message that humanity would never bow. The final assault begins. The Coalition fleet slipped silently through the dark corridors of space, cloaked by advanced stealth technology developed by Alara's team. As they approached the Zaltan stronghold, tension crackled through the command center. Ash's strike team deployed in sleek assault ships, weaving through enemy patrols and navigating asteroid fields. Ground operatives prepared for insertion via drop pods aimed at the Leviathan's hull. The air was thick with anticipation. The culmination of years of struggle boiled down to these critical moments. Breaching the Leviathan, Ash led her team through the Leviathan's defenses, evading turrets and patrols with a combination of skill and sheer determination. They breached the hull and forced their way into the labyrinthine corridors inside the dreadnought. The interior was a cold, alien environment. Gleaming metal, humming energy conduits, and an eerie silence broken only by the footsteps of soldiers and the distant thrum of the ship's engines. The battle within. The strike team encountered fierce resistance from Zaltan troops determined to protect their flagship at all costs. The narrow corridors became a deadly battlefield. Ash coordinated her team with precision, using tactics honed over years of combat. Rel led a flanking maneuver that caught the enemy off guard, while the ground operatives sabotaged critical systems to delay reinforcements. The team pushed relentlessly toward the command core, every step a gamble against overwhelming odds, a sacrifice for the future. As the team neared the command core, the situation grew dire. The Zaltan unleashed their ultimate defense, a powerful energy shield that pulsed with lethal intensity. Alara, who had joined the team to assist with the technological assault, revealed a last-ditch device, a prototype EMP capable of disabling the shield temporarily, but at a great cost. "We don't have time," she urged. "This is the only way." Ash made a split-second decision. Alara would deploy the device, but it required close proximity to the shield's generator. The risk was immense. Alara nodded, steeling herself. For humanity, the turning point. With Alara's device activated, the shield flickered and died. The strike team surged forward, breaching the command core chamber. Ash and Rel faced the Zaltan commander in a final showdown, a fierce duel that blended tactical prowess and raw determination. In the climax of the battle, Ash's cybernetic enhancements gave her the edge, and she delivered the decisive blow that ended the commander's reign. Victory and renewal. With the command core disabled, the Leviathan's systems began to collapse. The flagship lost power and control, drifting helplessly as coalition forces outside the ship closed in. The victory was hard-won and costly. Alara did not survive the EMP deployment, and several team members were lost in the fighting. But their sacrifice ensured the destruction of the Zaltan flagship and a crippling blow to their empire. Across the coalition, celebrations erupted. The spark of rebellion had become a roaring blaze, a new dawn for humanity. In the days that followed, Ash addressed the coalition from the sanctuary's grand hall. Her voice carried the weight of loss, but also the promise of hope. "We have fought through darkness and despair, but today we stand on the threshold of a new dawn. The Zaltan may have been mighty, but humanity's spirit is mightier. We will rebuild, reclaim our worlds, and forge a future where no one lives in fear." Rel stood beside her, his expression reflecting the hard-won peace they had earned. The ember continues to burn. As the coalition began to rebuild the shattered systems and welcome displaced populations, Ash looked toward the stars with determination. The war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning. The ember that had once threatened to fade had become a raging fire, one that would illuminate the galaxy for generations to come.